Hi everybody, my name's Helen Thompson from the British Franchise Association, and I'm here talking today to Sunny from the massage company. Sunny is a franchisee of the massage company. Sunny, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Helen. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thanks very much for taking the time out to talk to me today. Sunny, I wonder if you could just talk me through a bit about your background prior to your being made redundant.
Sure. Yeah, my background predominantly all revolved around call centres. So I was in the call centre industry for about 25 years and really worked my way up through, various sort of positions. Ultimately, or predominantly, a lot of my, especially my latter years, a lot of my roles were around operational management, and I did quite a lot around quality management as well, both in the UK, and I did some work in Europe. So it was, a lot of it was around, as you would imagine, in a call centre environment, very people-driven, process-driven, very target-orientated, and so I worked for a few different call centres, different sizes. Some were sort of smaller within the smaller sector, but then there were the one that I finished with last, the domestic and general, that they had a number of call centres around UK and in Europe, and typically 500 to 600 seater call centres.
Mm. So what actually happened with the build up towards your redundancy? How did you find out about that?
Well, I think it was something that was sort of on the cards across a lot of the positions within domestic and general. There were some sort of structural changes that had been occurring previously for the past 12 months, and some new senior management had also been sort of brought in as well. And I think the focus for the company was to really streamline a lot of their processes and actually amalgamate some of the departments. So in some ways it was a bit of a shock, but in some other ways it wasn't either, because for example, my line manager had been sort of let go about 6 months prior to I had. So it was mixed feelings, really.
Yeah, so it was something that you sort of knew was coming. It didn't come out as too much of a shock to you then?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's never nice going through redundancy, and if anybody's been through it, I'm sure they can say the same, because you then have that level of uncertainty of what's going to happen next, and that can be quite daunting. So even though there was an element of me that wasn't totally surprised, there was a part of me that was a bit obviously worried and nervous about what the future might hold, and where my next sort of role will come.
Had you considered working for yourself once you knew about the redundancy? Was that something that sort of came into your mind?
I mean, it's sort of come up in conversation in the past, but nothing. There was a desire there, that was something that I would wanted to do, but I guess really the right opportunity never really came about, and actually, especially at domestic in general, especially my sort of second half of that experience, I was in good roles, and actually they were quite sort of stimulating positions. So I guess I was quite comfortable in what I was doing there, but also, as I say, nothing had really come about that made me feel really passionate and excited to actually take something up.
Yeah. So how did you hear about franchising then, Sunny?
Well, I knew about franchising before the redundancy. When I had looked at sort of doing something for myself, I was aware of the concept, and I knew a couple of people that were in franchising. My brother-in-law was in franchising, and a couple of other individuals that I knew. So I knew the basics of what franchising was, but it was only until the redundancy occurred, and I felt that was the opportunity really to look at doing something again myself, and sort of franchising sort of fell a bit later on, because initially my initial thoughts were looking at something, doing something, setting up, something for myself.
Yeah.
And then it was only later on that actually franchising then became sort of a key part that I started to look at.
So how did you come across the massage company?
Well, it's interesting actually. It's quite, because as I went through the journey of looking for something for myself, initially it was something that I thought I would do myself, and nothing really, it never sort of fell the way that I thought it would. And I was close to opening a nursery, which fell through, and that at that point was then when I started to look into the franchising, and then through that journey, I looked at various different franchising sort of models, attended lots of seminars and exhibitions, and also carried out the BFA certification to understand more about franchising. And then I'd signed up for a number of sort of newsletters, and really it was, you can call it fate, but it really was sort of out of the blue. I'd never heard of the massage company until I received a flyer via email, because again I was close to looking or taking on a different franchising venture around sort of domiciliary care, and then as soon as it came, it landed in my inbox, instantly I was intrigued. It was something, obviously the branding worked, and the guys that did the branding obviously did a great job, because it caught my eye, and instantly I was intrigued to find out more, and as they say, the rest is history, because I then started to I contacted the person who the recruitment, Pam Gordon, her name is, and then I had a session with Charlie and Elliot, the franchisors in Camberley, at one of their discovery days.
Fantastic. Yeah, they're really valuable, aren't they, those discovery days, because you really get sort of a feel for who the franchisor is.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was great because, as you say, it gave me an opportunity to, one, find out a bit more about the concept, because it was relatively new in the market. A chance to meet Charlie and Elliot and see what their vision was, and actually where they saw the brand going, and how I might be a part of that. So yeah, definitely that first discovery day was useful, and then after that there was a process that lasted for about 4 or 5 months, up until when I chose to then sign the franchise agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the massage company is a premises-based franchise. Have you had challenges along the way with regard to actually finding the right premises that you need?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably that was probably one of the biggest challenges up until opening, was finding the right property. I think at the time the massage company was quite new. There was just one centre open, so there was at the time there was a challenge of, sometimes you might see a property that you might really like, but you may not necessarily have the backing of the landlord, because of the covenant for the massage company. So that sometimes was a challenge, but also because we are quite specific in terms of what we need as a unit, in terms of size, location, accessibility, that then they're not as easy to find. So it probably lasted about 12 months, and Elliot and I looked at a number of properties all around the Midlands, and eventually we found this one, which again I think was fate, because we were close to signing up one in Warwick, which fell through. Actually this turned out better. So I would say that was probably one of the things that took the longest, up until opening the centre.
Yeah, fate sometimes takes a hand, doesn't it? I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason, Sonny. So I think, you know, if something does fall through, then there might, to me, there always seems like there's going to be something better around the corner. That's probably why. So, Sonny, if somebody's watching you today, thinking they're facing redundancy, and you know that they haven't maybe thought of franchising as an option, what would you say to them?
I think, I mean, there's a few things I would say. I mean, to begin with, you've got to make sure, feel it's right for you, you know, your family, and first of all, if you're looking at franchising, you know, it's key that you understand what franchising is and the model, because, you know, setting up something yourself versus franchising, there's always going to be pros and cons to both, and you need to make sure that the franchising model is fit for you. And I think once you've established that's what you want to do, I mean, I would encourage, you know, attending as many exhibitions and even carrying out, you know, the certification on the BFA website to get a good grasp of what franchising is, and then really you've got the massive decision of, you know, finding the right franchise for you, and that's where you've got to do lots of research. You've got to, you know, meet as many people and attend as many various different exhibitions, and go see all these companies and franchisors, and do as much research and due diligence, not only on the brand but on the franchisors, you know, on the numbers, you know, and as I say, it has to fit for you, and it has to be viable, and it's a massive, you know, it's a massive investment, you know, financially, but also in terms of it's going to take over a lot of your time. So you've got to be 100% sure that that is the thing that you want to do. And then ultimately, my advice would be just go with your gut. It can be quite daunting. It's difficult because you have lots of different franchises out there, and you know, and ultimately they all want you to come on board with them, so you've got to make sure it's right for you, but then go with your gut instinct, because you know, you will always get mixture of opinions from people you speak to, so just go with what feels right.
You know, I think you're absolutely right, and the important thing really is not to rush, is to take your time and make sure that that decision is right for you. Sunny, sorry, after you.
So yeah, I think the absolutely, that the thing, just to elaborate on the due diligence, is take your time. You know, when things like looking at the franchise agreement, make sure you understand it, you go through in detail, have a, you know, a really good solicitor to check over it, and you know, you're going through the numbers, and yes, take your time, like I said, you know, because it's a lifetime decision, so that is, you know, it's important that you use that time wisely before you then, you know, finally sign and then get on board.
Well, Sunny, I can't tell you how much I've really appreciated you telling us your story today, and there's been some really valid stuff that you've said, so I'm sure people will be able to take away a lot of advice and guidance from what we've discussed today. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for your time today, Sunny, and wish you all the very best and continued success with your massage company franchise. Take care.
No problem. Thank you, Helen.
Bye now.
Cheers. Bye for now.